I invite the member for Langley Willowbrook to lead the House in prayer or reflection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm doing a reflection. Voices of change. In halls where echoes weave their tales, a dance of power, a storm that pales. With each debate, a vision formed, for justice sought and spirits warmed. In every corner, a story sings of hope and struggle, the change it brings. From whispered dreams to shouts of mighty, in unity strength we seek the light. Let the leaders rise with heart sincere to listen, learn, and conquer fear. For politics is not just a game, but a pathway paved to elevate names. The young, the old, the lost, the found, in every voice let the truth resound. Together we stand, hand in hand, to shape tomorrow, to understand. So let us rise, embrace the call, for in our unity we stand tall. With courage and purpose, let's create a world where justice shall illuminate. Thank you.
Introductions by members. Madam Clerk. Member for Prince George, Valemount.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. It is my pleasure this morning to introduce a contingent of highly dedicated constituents from Prince George this morning. Councillor Garth Frizzell, Councillor Kyle Sampson, Councillor Susan Scott. They are accompanied by Senior Advisor Intergovernmental Relations, Catherine Sakobi, and our City Manager, Walter Babbage. They will be visiting for a few days, so if you see them in the halls, please stop and say hello and take a few minutes to chat. Will everybody here please make them feel welcome today and throughout this precinct this week.
Minister of Energy.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Today we have in the gallery members of the Filipino community who have joined us for the statements by party leaders and by our colleague from Vancouver, Kensington. I want to acknowledge their strength and courage in being with us today. They give us strength and courage, and to express the solidarity of all members of the House with their grief in this moment. I want to particularly acknowledge my friend, the Financial Secretary of the Hospital Employees Union, Betty Valenzuela, who's in the gallery. Betty is an extraordinary leader in our province, leader of the labour movement, leader of hospital workers, leader of her community, and she, joined with many others, is a strength today. So I'll ask everyone in the House to join me in making our guests welcome.
Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. As the Minister of Energy has noted, we have many guests from the Filipino community joining us today for statements from the leaders of the parties and from the member for Kingsway. I will do my best to recognize as many of them as possible. Melissa Badua is here. She is the president of the Bayanihan Cultural and Housing Society. Micah Paris, the president of the Victoria Filipino-Canadian Association. Teresita Quigley, president of the Victoria Filipino-Canadian Seniors Association. Annette Beach, president of the Victoria Filipino-Canadian Association. Isidoro Emanuel, VFCA board member. Dominga Passmore, BCHS board member. Ronnie Nicolasora, HEU. Betty has already, of course, been introduced by the Minister of Energy. Janice Lozano, United Filipino-Canadian Association of BC. Cliff Belgica, Christian Cunanan from the United Filipino-Canadian Association of BC. Bert Perongao, Ray Portelaza. Ray is a former Olympic boxer and community leader. All joining us, please, will the House join me in making them feel very welcome here today.
Minister of Labour.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. We are really honoured to be joined today on the Legislative Precinct by a number of scientists, professors, assistant professors across our academic system who are joining us today as part of Science Meets Parliament BC 2025, organized by the Canadian Science Policy Centre. And while there are too many of the more than 24 scientists who are joining us today to have conversations with us as decision makers about how we can better use scientific evidence in decision making, I just want to say that in these times when sometimes the truth and the facts become casualties, it is so important that we take every opportunity we can to learn from those who are on the front lines of generating knowledge, of doing the scientific research that is so critical in helping us make decisions about how to make good decisions on behalf of our communities and our province. Would the House please join me in welcoming all of the scientists who are joining us on the precinct today.
Minister of Water and Land.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I would like to give a warm welcome, and I hope you'll all join me, to the 18 young folks from the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society Young Leaders in Conservation Program, along with CPAW's Tori Ball and Eden Limes. CPAW's BC does absolutely amazing work protecting our wilderness in BC and working to support sustainable livelihoods and advance reconciliation with First Nations. The Minister of Environment and I look very much forward to having lunch with you today. Please rise and please give me a warm please help me in giving them a warm welcome. Thank you so much.
Member for Richmond Queensborough.
I heard the Premier's address, and three of the members mentioned, or three of the people that were mentioned that are in the gallery today are my personal friends. Cliff Bellica, Christian Cunanan, and Ray Fortaleza. So from this side of the House, we'd also like to welcome them.
Minister of Culture and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I want to welcome a man who's served this province well as a lawyer, as a judge, and as a dad. He has raised two wonderful kids with his wife, Satwinder, who now work with us here in the building. They asked not to be named, but I will name him, Bill Sandhu. Welcome to the Legislature.
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. I'm so pleased to welcome Guy Falatella to the House today. Guy is a powerful speaker about the toxic drug crisis, and he widely shares his personal experience with addiction, harm reduction, stigma, homelessness, and recovery. But most importantly, Guy believes in people. Through his work, he provides hope for recovery, and he inspires so many of us to continue to do our work to support people in every single aspect of their healing journey. Would the House please join me in making Guy feel most welcome?
Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning I have a friend in the gallery who I met very long ago at HMCS Discovery when he was a brand new officer cadet and I was a senior petty officer and therefore very scary. He is a young man that I mostly see in uniform, either as a citizen sailor with the reserves or as a member in high standing and always at various events with St. John Ambulance. He also works with BC Hydro, keeping the electricity running in our province, and he provides service in so many ways. The young man's name is Mario Liverant, and he's in Victoria right now continuing his officer training with the reserves. So I'd just like the House to make him very welcome.
Member for Courtney Comox.
Hi there. I'd like to pre-welcome the grade 10 class from Phil and Jenny Gaglardi Academy. Miss Tansky will be inheriting my son in 8 years, so I wish her all the best when she gets here. She's definitely going to need it. Thank you very much.
Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I just want to echo some of the welcomes that the Premier and the Minister of Energy have made to I would like to welcome my very good friend, Ronnie Nicolasora, who was the person when I started at the Hospital Employees Union, who I shared an office with and truly considered my office dad. He is such a wonderful human being. Any picket line, he will be there serving soup and food and doing it out of the kindness of his heart. He won't miss a single birthday or any occasion throughout the year to wish you well, and he's such a kind soul, and it's wonderful to see you here, and please know we stand with you every single day here in our hearts. Please make sure welcome.
Oh, sorry. Member.
Mr. Speaker, despite that I'm wearing a very light shade of blue this morning, I'm saddened that you didn't recognize me right away. I wanted to rise today and acknowledge the tremendous service, courage, and just plain good common sense and cultural sensitivity shown by the member from Vancouver, Kensington. I know it was a very, very horrible weekend for her personally, and I just wanted to acknowledge that I see she's attending here today, and I wanted to thank her for her service. She did an awful lot on Saturday, and I think it's worthy of this House to recognize that.
Madam Clerk. Member for Burnaby South Metrotown.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm very excited to welcome Professor Victor Ramraj today in the House. He's a law professor, director of the Center of Asia-Pacific Initiatives at the University of Victoria, former vice dean for academic affairs at the National University of Singapore. He's co-director of Center for Transnational Legal Studies in London, a global consortium of law schools. He's a former judicial law clerk at the Federal Court of Appeal. He has held visiting appointments at universities such as Thailand and Japan and University of Toronto, and he's just freshly returned from Macau as a co-panelist at the Asia Universities of Summit, and he's a big supporter of also Filipino community. So please, if I can get all the House to join me to make him feel very welcome today. Thank you.
Minister of Education.
Honourable Speaker, I have the honour of welcoming 65 students from Thomas Haney Secondary today on the precinct, accompanied by their teacher, Chris Connolly. Thomas Haney happens to be my alma mater. I was the second grad class ever there, which now gives you my age if anyone wants to look that up. But please make them feel welcome today. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to present a message from Her Honour the Lieutenant Governor.
Her Honour the Lieutenant Governor transmits herewith Bill number 13, Intituled Miscellaneous Statutes Amendment Act 2025, and recommends the same to the Legislative Assembly. Attorney General.
I move that the bill be introduced and read a first time now. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce Bill 13, the Miscellaneous Statute Amendment Act 2025. This bill amends the following statutes: Greater Vancouver Sewage and Drainage Act, Housing Supply Act, Islands Trust Act, Local Elections Campaign Financing Act, Local Government Act, Professional Government Act, Vancouver Charter, Wildfire Act, and Wildlife Act. The bill also makes consequential clarifying and related amendments to other statutes. We'll be pleased to elaborate on the nature of the amendments during the second reading of the bill.
Member, the question is first reading of the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be placed on the orders of the day for second reading at the next sitting of the House after today.
You have heard the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Madam Clerk.
Statements by members.
Member for Skeena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today with a heavy heart to honor the life of Trey Hilton, who passed away tragically last week. Just 3 days before his passing, I had the privilege of spending time with Trey. True to his nature, he was teaching and giving, taking the time to give me and other friends a refresher on naloxone training, a skill that saves lives every day. Trey dedicated much of his life to helping others, especially those struggling with mental health challenges and addictions on the downtown east side. He was a tireless advocate, a mentor, and a lifeline for countless people who often had no one else. Trey's leadership wasn't loud or self-serving. It was quiet, fierce, and deeply rooted in compassion. He fought every day to create hope where many had given up. I first met Trey when we were both in active addiction. When I reconnected with him a few months ago, I was struck by how profoundly moving it was to see how far he had come in his recovery. His life was often difficult, and he faced many challenges, but no matter how many times he fell down, he got back up, and it was that determination that he exemplified through his work he has done on the downtown east side. His impact didn't stop there, though. Trey helped shift conversations around mental health and substance use across British Columbia. He believed in solutions, real recovery, and building systems that treated people with dignity rather than judgment. His work to spearhead the Peer Recovery Navigator program has been profoundly impactful in the fight against addiction, and his efforts will not be in vain, because there are thousands of people who have been positively impacted by Trey, and we will continue that work in his memory. Trey's life reminds us that some of our greatest heroes are not found in positions of power, but on the front lines of our communities, standing shoulder to shoulder with those society too often leaves behind. His loss is profound. My thoughts are with his family, his friends, his colleagues, and the many people whose lives he touched. Tragically, he leaves behind a son and an unborn child, but I know that they will grow up to be fiercely proud of the man that their father was. Trey was a fighter, a teacher, and above all, a friend. His legacy will live on in every life he helped save, in every person he gave hope to, and in every conversation he sparked about building a better and more compassionate future. Thank you.
Member for Vernon Lumbee.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I rise to recognize the upcoming National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People, Red Dress Day. This day is a solemn reminder of the deep and ongoing injustices faced by Indigenous women, girls, and 2S LGBTQIA+ community. And women, Indigenous women, girls, and 2S LGBTQIA+ people in every red dress we see. Hanging across our communities, there is a life, a daughter, a mother, a sister, a friend, each one cherished, loved, and each one deserving of safety, protection, and remembrance. In Vernon and across the North Okanagan, communities are gathering to honor these lives. The Vernon and District Métis Association will host a gathering on May 4th, and North Okanagan Friendship Center will hold a ceremony on May 5th. Both offering spaces for healing, for remembrance, and for renewed commitment to justice. But remembrance alone is not enough. We must confront the colonialism, the systemic racism, ongoing embarrassing denialism by some, and the gender-based violence that allows this national tragedy to continue. We must demand change, not just in our words, but in our actions. As an ally, I stand shoulder to shoulder with the Indigenous communities. Whenever possible, I join the annual March for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls in Vancouver, standing strong in solidarity with them, listening, learning, and committing to be a part of that change. Today and every day, we honor the resilience, the courage, and unwavering voices of Indigenous families, survivors, and advocates. Their fight for justice is a call to all of us to act, to amplify, and to never turn away. Let us build a future where every Indigenous woman, girl, and Two-Spirit person is safe, respected, and empowered. We owe them nothing less.
Member for Boundaries Milkameen.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I want to take a moment to celebrate the heart of our communities, our volunteers. In rural British Columbia, volunteerism isn't just an act of service, it's a way of life. It's what keeps our small towns and rural communities strong, connected, and thriving. Volunteers are the first to step up when help is needed, often filling gaps where formal services are stretched thin. Across our province, volunteers contribute more than 114 million hours every year. That is the equivalent of over 60,000 full-time jobs. That's an extraordinary contribution for many rural areas, and it's not just helpful, it's essential. Without volunteers, many of the services, events, and programs we depend on simply wouldn't exist. Volunteerism is about more than giving back. It's about building up, building stronger communities, deeper connections, helping our neighbors, and a shared sense of belonging. The spirit of volunteerism also strengthens our economy. The nonprofit sector is a major employer in British Columbia, creating meaningful work opportunities, especially for women and newcomers to Canada. In fact, over 72% of those employed in the nonprofit sector are women, and over half come from immigrant backgrounds, a reflection of how volunteering and community service build an inclusive, vibrant province for everyone. To every volunteer, whether you give an hour a month or dedicate countless hours each week, thank you. Thank you for making our communities safer, healthier, stronger, and more connected. Your efforts are seen, they are valued, and they make a difference every single day. As we celebrate Volunteer Week, let's all take a moment to thank a volunteer, support a local organization, or even find a way to give back ourselves. It's through small acts of kindness and generosity that we continue to build the strong, resilient communities we are so proud to call home. Happy Volunteer Week, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Member for Coquitlam-Millardville.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. This last weekend was difficult. There were some very dark moments, but I want to be very grateful for the bright core of joy that I was able to experience at the morning of the Lapu Lapu Festival. But also, in my community, it is not very often that you get to be at the beginning of something that is beautiful, at the beginning of the journey of a leader. And I was very lucky to be present at the beginning of the journey of Chloe Goodison, who is the founder and now executive director of a tiny nonprofit called Nalox's Home. When Chloe was in high school, she worked with the Tri-Cities Opioid Overdose Action Committee, and together with a local Indigenous artist, Christine McKenzie, created an incredible, beautiful mural that still hangs in our local library. But for Chloe, expressing her feelings was not enough. She wanted to do something. And she had a deep belief that young people could achieve so much if they just reached out to other people who were like them. And so when she got to SFU, she founded Nalox's Home, an organization that trained other young students to go out into the community and to speak, to talk about stigma, to talk about safety, to talk about recognizing the signs of overdose, and then how to counteract them using Nalox's Home. And Chloe and her team started with a tiny core of 17 people, and I started seeing them at festivals, at community cleanups, at clothing drives, and there they were in their purple shirts, handing out Nalox's Home, getting people to practice by injecting oranges, and sharing their deep and passionate commitment to making the world better. This January, they will have educated 30,000 people in our province on how to prevent overdose. And I want to raise my hands to them for the strength and courage of their journey and the passion of their hearts. Thank you.
Member for Abbotsford West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All of us have certain individuals that stand out above all others in our local communities. It is my honor to be here today to recognize an outstanding individual who has dedicated so much of his life to serving Abbotsford, Canada, and beyond. Former Member of Parliament, the Honourable Ed Fast. Ed has been a public servant for 19 years as the Member of Parliament for Abbotsford. On May 18, 2011, the former Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, appointed Ed to his cabinet to serve as Minister of International Trade. He assumed responsibility of the development of the Government of Canada's Global Markets Action Plan. His accomplishments include free trade agreements with the European Union, South Korea, Ukraine, and negotiations on the original Trans-Pacific Partnership. Ed introduced a private member's bill, C-277, to amend the criminal code to increase from 5 to 10 years in prison the maximum sentence for luring children over the internet for sexual purposes, which received royal assent in 2007 and became the law of Canada. But his public service journey began long before that. Ed's commitment to Abbotsford started in 1985 when he was first elected to the Abbotsford School Board, which he served 2 terms. In 1996, he was elected to the Abbotsford City Council and served 3 terms. It was from there that he went on to serve this country as MP for Abbotsford in 2006. Over the years, Ed has witnessed many changes, faced challenges, and demonstrated resilience. In 2016, after suffering a stroke, Ed faced a difficult road to recovery, but true to his character, he overcame that challenge with determination. Throughout all these years, Ed has been supported by his loving wife, Annette, who has been by his side for more than 40 years. Together, they have built a life and a family in Abbotsford, raising 4 daughters and now proudly watching as they have 12 grandchildren. Ed, your dedication to our community, your unwavering commitment to our public service, your resilience has made Abbotsford and Canada a better place. As you now prepare for retirement for public life, I want to personally thank you and Annette for your sacrifice, for your hard work, for your selfless service. Your legacy will continue to inspire us all. Mr. Speaker, former Honourable Member of Parliament, Ed Fast.
Member for Wandi Fuka-Malahat.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I'd like to recognize the incredible work of the Souk Lions Club and thank them for the vision that inspired their annual Soukarama event that showcases what many of the local businesses and nonprofits have to offer. Having attended on more than one occasion, I'm always struck by the diversity and passion of the organizations represented. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and commend just a few of these organizations for their tireless work. Amber Academy for fostering creativity and artistic expression among local youth, Souk Women in Business, Souk Radio, which is a new addition to the community that provides a platform for community voices and local broadcasting, the Harmony Project for promoting music and education and youth development, Souk Family Resource Society, which provides essential support services for families, Souk Region Community Health Network for advocating for community health and wellness, Sheringham Lighthouse Society for preserving the region's maritime heritage, Souk Fine Arts Society showcasing artistic talent and cultural enrichment via the creation of Vancouver Island's longest running juried art show, Souk Autism Support, Souk Philharmonic Orchestra, Souk Transition House providing safe haven for those escaping domestic violence, Souk Region Museum preserving the region's local history. This annual event is not just a showcase, it's a testament to the collective strength and resilience of the region. Each organization with its unique mission contributes to a network of support, culture, and development that highlights the power of volunteer organizations. And so I'd once again just like to thank the Souk Lions Club for hosting such an incredible annual event, for allowing residents and visitors alike to become familiar with so many of the programs and services available. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Premier to make a ministerial statement.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to members for supporting this important opportunity for us to reflect on the horrific events of the weekend. Our province is mourning. The country is mourning. People around the world are mourning. The senseless murder of 11 people in our province and the maiming and injuring of dozens more during a celebration of a community that is loved, that is respected, that is foundational to our province. It's hard for any British Columbian to not have been touched in some way by a member of the Filipino community. It's a community that is disproportionately represented in all of our caregiving in the province, whether it's in the hospital, whether it's in care homes, whether it's one-on-one care. It's a community that's been specifically recognized for their contributions to nursing in this country, Honourable Speaker. This is a community that gives and gives and gives. And on the morning of the attack, stood on the stage with many of my colleagues here, with colleagues from across the way, to celebrate that community that too often has been overlooked, working away tirelessly for us. Stood on the stage together with many aspiring office holders, local government, provincial, federal, to celebrate the community and the amazing work done by the member Vancouver-Kensington and her team in her community office and the team at Filipino BC in pulling together a cultural celebration, second on a beautiful sunny day. First of all, I'd like to say it was an amazing celebration. The organizers did an incredible job. People had a wonderful time. The actions of one man can't take away from that. This group has raised the profile of Filipinos in the province and brought us together to celebrate that community, and that should be recognized. For those who are mourning right now, loved ones who died, and I know all British Columbians are seeing that family, 5-year-old leaving a 16-year-old orphan behind, staring out at us from our TV screens and from the cover of the newspaper, all of us with a knot in our stomach about the senselessness of this tragedy. For those of you who are mourning, and we count ourselves among you, we stand with you. For those of you who are in hospital, injured, recovering, some in critical condition, for you and your families, we stand with you. I want to thank the amazing first responders. I mentioned it the next day, but I am still so moved by the sequence of events of dispatchers overwhelmed at the paramedic service saying, we're not going to be able to get to everybody in the way that we'd like to. There's just too much demand. And then almost instantaneously, we've had paramedics calling in. We've added 7 more cars. We'll be able to meet the demand. And the paramedics were just one group who stepped up in this way, but there were so many. Doctors, the nurses in the hospitals who worked late, who came in, the lab technicians in the hospital, people who keep the hospital clean and running. Every person in the care teams in those urgent responses stepped up. The fire department, the police department, responding to a scene of unimaginable horror. It'll be with them for the rest of their lives. The heroism wasn't limited to the professionals. There were people who were witness to the event, did CPR, tried to ease the suffering of those who were injured, tried to assist those who witnessed the unimaginable. At 3 o'clock in the morning, volunteers from the Lapu Lapu Day Festival went out to take down tents beside an active crime scene investigation because they had to. And they didn't sleep, Honourable Speaker, and the member for Kensington didn't sleep because her office became a triage center for the whole community. On behalf of the province of BC, on behalf of all the members of the Government Caucus, the Filipino community, stand with you through this. And I know this community, this province, will come out of this horrific event stronger. The Filipino community pulls together in moments of adversity like no other. They always stand together and come through stronger. This will be no exception. This time, they'll have the whole province standing with them together. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Premier for his words here today. It's hard to imagine this event. Hundreds of thousands of British Columbians just over the last couple of weeks came together in celebrations, out on streets, celebrating with families, enjoying what great things we have to offer in British Columbia, providing food, free water, friendship, bringing unity of people together. This event, I can't imagine how this could happen. The Lapu-Lapu Festival is the Filipino community coming together to celebrate a hero of bravery and hope, to celebrate on the street, and to bring people together and to share those values with people in British Columbia. I want to start by saying my heartfelt condolences to the families, to those injured, to those who have been killed, to the whole community. It's unimaginable to think that a tragedy like this could happen. And it unfortunately has changed all of us. And certainly for the Filipino community, the impact will take a long time to get over. But I do know the Filipino community a little bit. I've had the pleasure to attend some events with them over the years to get to know families. They're such a caring people. They're such people that are so dedicated and devoted to family, to working hard, to improving lives. And not just for them, but for everyone they touch, for everyone that they're involved with and come across. And I think it's one of the reasons why so many of them participate and work in our care facilities, whether it is personal care, whether it's home care, whether it's in our hospitals, because it's in their nature as to who they are. And I want to thank the Filipino community for what they do, for everything that they provide for all of us in British Columbia. And most importantly, for that hope, that bravery, that love that they share so openly with everyone they come in contact with. Mr. Speaker, at a time like this, when with such tragedy that has touched our hearts, there is a huge time for grieving, but also for answers. We need to know how to resolve this, how to make sure that these sort of things never happen again. How we can come together from all sides politically and fight for those changes that are needed, fight for the things that are important, fight to make sure that support is there for the community and that celebrations like this can go on and to be strengthened and to be honored. Mr. Speaker, the Filipino community is grieving, there's no question, and they will for many days, months, weeks, years. I was never fortunate enough to have children, but I can't imagine what it's like for a community and for individuals and families to face such tragedy and loss and find some way to be able to go on. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us as elected officials to be able to be there and support, to be able to find answers, to be able to make sure that we can reassure the community that we stand with them, that we will be there, we will fight, and we'll make sure that changes that are needed will happen. It's what I know each of us as elected officials are devoted to doing, to being here for the families, to being here for that change, to being here to try to make those improvements. And I know, Mr. Speaker, that as we go through and ask hard questions, as we deal with issues of mental health, if we deal with issues in our communities, that this will always be at a heart, and this will have touched us and affected us and changed us. This is the darkest day that we have seen in Vancouver, probably in British Columbia. And I can't think of a community that is more loving and more caring that would have to go through this kind of a suffering and tragedy. I mean, it's unimaginable. Mr. Speaker, I want to say once again to the Filipino community and to all British Columbians and those around the world that are grieving, that our thoughts and prayers are with you, that we will do everything we can to support the families, to support the community. We'll do everything we can to fight for the changes that are necessary to try to make sure a tragedy like this can never happen again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the Premier and the Leader of the Official Opposition for their words. A huge amount of gratitude and appreciation particularly for the member for Vancouver Kensington, for the strength and support you've shown for your community. I look forward to your reflections on all that you've absorbed over the past 3 days. The events of Saturday evening, where a community that was celebrating its history and its culture were so tragically marked, will stay in our hearts and our thoughts. The entire Filipino community across British Columbia and around the world, we stand in solidarity with the pain that you feel today, and our thoughts are with you. What should have been a joyous celebration of a rich culture and heritage ended in devastating loss, and we join you in mourning those whose lives were taken so senselessly. I thank you for allowing us to stand beside you, to grieve with you, and to share in your vigils. In times like this, it can be easy to call for snap judgments and quick decisions, for more policing, for incarcerating people who don't look or act like we do. I ask this House not to fall into that trap. I urge all of us to remember the vast majority of people who experience mental illness are not violent, and in fact, are more likely to be the victim of violence, more likely than to be the perpetrator. In this House, we may occasionally reinforce stigma and do harm to those who least deserve it. I urge us all to be careful with our words and our actions and to avoid reinforcing harmful stereotypes. What will make us safer is building an equitable society where people can access the supports that they need, where people experiencing a mental health challenge can access culturally safe, prompt, and comprehensive care, where we can all live free from racism, bullying, and discrimination, feeling loved, included, and able to be exactly who we are, no matter who we are, no matter where we come from, no matter where we live, and no matter where we find and celebrate community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Vancouver Kensington.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to say a few words about the shocking murders that occurred on Saturday at the Lapu-Lapu Festival. It was a shocking tragedy for our province, for our city, but most of all, to our Filipino community. We are so devastated by what has happened. I want to start by once again saying my heart goes out to the victims, their families, those who were injured, and the many volunteers and witnesses who were there when the incident happened and have been traumatized by it. You are our priority. The province, the Premier, my office, and I will continue to provide support to the families of those who lost their lives or were injured. The Lapu-Lapu celebration, which is a festival showcasing our Filipino strength and culture, was just steps away from my office and was to be a celebration of our Filipino strength and culture. It turned unspeakably tragic due to the actions of one individual, which have left me and my community in shock. We are heartbroken. There is grief, there is anger, there is shock. But we can't let an incident like this, however horrific, stop us from supporting and gathering within our communities across BC. We are collectively shattered, but we are coming together as a community. We will heal and we will rebuild. I want to begin by recognizing the first responders who were on scene immediately who came together to provide support and save lives. And many community members across British Columbia, around the world, have offered support and assistance. It means a lot. We appreciate it, and it will help us move forward. I also want to appreciate all the outpouring of support that has come from all levels of government. I thank the City of Vancouver, the federal government, the Consul General, and the Ambassador from the Philippines for their ongoing support in this difficult time. There's a lot that needs to come together, and we will continue working with the city, the province, and federal government to make sure there are adequate supports and services in place. Together, we will all support the community and help ensure the necessary healing occurs. I would like to now say something very specifically to those in the Filipino community who are in incredible pain. We are hurting right now. The events of this Saturday were horrifying, and their impact cannot be understated. But we will support each other, and we will help each other move forward. We will come together out of this catastrophe. The strength we were to celebrate on that day will be shown as we get through this, as we rebuild. I love you all. Again, we are here for the families of the victims and those who were injured, and we will stand by those who have been indelibly scarred and devastated. We will come together. We will support our community, and we will rebuild our community, rebuild with our great strength. I want to close by saying that anyone who needs help should seek it out. There is no reason why you should struggle alone. I encourage anybody who is being impacted to please reach out. Talk to your friends and family. Get help and get support. We are here for you. We love you, we care for you, and we're here for you. And we stand strong together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member. Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in the light of the tragedy, I wish at this point we could be taking some time to doing other work other than to be asking questions in question period. But we do need to carry on with the work that we have been elected to do in this chamber. And this past weekend's event, especially for the Filipino community, have set some serious questions that need to be asked. Interim Police Chief Stephen Rye has called this the darkest day in cities of Vancouver's history, and it may well be the darkest day in British Columbia's history. But despite this darkest time, we saw the best in humanity shine through the actions of first responders and of bystanders who rushed in, doing everything they can to help, and certainly in the healthcare workers around the province and the healthcare workers in the Lower Mainland who responded to the Code Orange, who continue to give the care. I want to say thank you to all of them. But even as we grieve, we need to fulfill our duty as members of the Legislature to ask the difficult questions so that we can ensure that these events will not be repeated. So, as a first question to the Premier, does the Premier recognize the current system is not providing the level of care that people with severe mental illness need, that is putting British Columbians at risk?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. And I recognize this is not the ideal moment for a question period, but I appreciate the critical role of the opposition and the need for question period. And I thank the member for recognizing that in his question. I just don't want the community to think that this is somehow improper. In fact, this is how the legislature will get through this. The question the member asks is an important one. We know that mental health services are critical for people in community. For the specific incident, I won't speculate. Vancouver Coastal Health has released some information indicate this man was being tracked by a care team. He was compliant with his medications. There was not an indication of violence. Leads to a whole array of further questions for British Columbians, for me, I'm sure for the opposition as well. Because there's a current police investigation, 100 police officers right now investigating this, ensuring that the evidence is there to convict this man for the heinous crime that he committed against our community. We're limited in what we can release without compromising that investigation. Police will release information as they can. We want them to do that, encourage them to do that, but not at the expense of getting a conviction. In terms of the mental health system generally in the province, we know the province needs urgent expansion of mental health supports. We just recently opened some beds for people struggling with mental health addiction and brain injury at Surrey Pretrial. We're opening more in Maple Ridge, a different group of people. We have 2,000 beds in the province that are available for doctors and nurses to use the Mental Health Act to hold people involuntarily. And those services are available. People should go to hospital. They should ask for assistance. But we know that we need more. We're adding 140 more beds at new hospital builds across the province. We're going to keep doing that work, Honourable Speaker, because it is a priority.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
I know we all share in the grief of the incident, as people around the world do. But the serious questions about the tragedy, and unfortunately far too many other incidents around the province, caused by individuals with significant police contacts and related to mental health disorders, has shown an unacceptable pattern in British Columbia, where people with serious mental illness disorders are deteriorating in communities without proper care, without support. So, Mr. Speaker, I would ask the Premier to put forward how is it that we can break this pattern? What is it that we need to be doing as a province to fix the system that is clearly not meeting the needs and quite frankly is broken, so that we can ensure these people are receiving the care that they need, and we can assure the families in British Columbia the safety and ability to be able to celebrate without fear of these issues happening in the future.
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, for this incident, I'm going to refrain from speculating about the contact this individual had with the system and how the system responded or did not respond to the needs that he had. It's an individual that made a decision to drive a vehicle into a crowd of people, killing elders and children. He should be prosecuted and convicted. So there are two aspects to this. One is the healthcare system, one is the criminal justice system. On the criminal justice side, we're training more police officers to ensure that police are available to support community events and communities across the province. We're tracking repeat violent offenders, 400 in the province, to ensure that courts have all the information they need when people are arrested to detain and hold these individuals, and to intervene with supports if, for example, mental health interventions will help interrupt that cycle of offending. We're opening mental health beds literally in prisons so that individuals who are in our remand center in Surrey, for example, are able to get mandatory involuntary care while in custody to ensure they're not released back to the community untreated. We're opening additional beds for people who aren't in contact with the criminal justice system at Maple Ridge, and we will be at other sites across the province. I know that there are lots of people struggling in our community, very visibly in communities, particularly in downtown cores. There have been incidents of repeat violent offenders in our community. I can tell British Columbians that those numbers are coming down thanks to these programs, and we're going to continue to expand them to ensure that people are safe. For the horrific attack that took place in Vancouver, we'll look to the criminal justice system to provide information, police, about what they find in terms of this individual's activities before the attacks, how the system responded or didn't. And if those answers don't come through the criminal justice system, we will not hesitate to call a public inquiry to get the answers that British Columbians deserve.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Mr. Speaker, I stood with the Premier and MLAs on both sides of this House to celebrate the community, the Filipino community at the Lapu-Lapu Festival, and I stood beside them again at the vigil in Kensington Park. And I'm still standing in solidarity to support the victims and their families and British Columbians. But we also must stand here in this chamber today because British Columbians deserve answers. And as our leader, the leader of the opposition, as he said, this is not the first time we have seen this pattern. It's been reported that the man accused of murdering festival attendees had well over 50 police contacts. He had numerous healthcare contacts related to mental illness. According to media reports, just hours before the attack, a family member had contacted the psychiatric ward at the hospital because the man had a deteriorating mental health condition. He had police contact just the day before. Despite the fact that the man had a care team, we know the result. The system failed, and people were killed. To the Premier, how many times does someone in this province have to interact with police? How many times do they have to interact with the healthcare system before effective supports are in place to keep the public and seriously mentally ill people safe?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I won't speculate about this particular incident. Police are investigating. I expect that we will hear answers from police and from the criminal justice system about aspects of what the member is asking. And I encourage them to share whatever information they can as soon as they can. But we won't compromise the possibility of prosecution and conviction at this stage. I also want to say, this man made a decision. He decided to drive a vehicle into a crowd of people, killing children, killing seniors. He should be criminally tried and convicted. For the healthcare system, the members of former police officers shall know. Without knowing the specifics of this case, conduct needs to rise to a level before we can take action to detain someone, to force them into care, or arrest them. The information we have currently from Vancouver Coastal Health is that up to this horrific murder, the person was compliant with medication and had no indication of violence. It raises all kinds of questions that the member rightly asks. I don't have the answers. Police are investigating that exact question right now. But I would urge British Columbians to let the police do their work, to provide us with the answers, in the court system to provide us with the answers. And if those systems are not able to do so, the earliest opportunity that we can do so without compromising the police investigation or prosecution, we will call a full public inquiry.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The court's role is to look at evidence that the police will collect, and they will determine whether or not the accused murderer is guilty or innocent or not guilty as a result of a mental illness. But it is not the role of the court to do a deep dive on our mental health care system, where there is clearly gaps in helping British Columbians. British Columbians who are shaken, Mr. Speaker, by the tragic events of this past weekend. And Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding that further investigation may be underway, the facts already show a clear and devastating pattern in British Columbia. People with mental illness, with dozens of police interactions, repeated contacts with the healthcare system, and countless missed opportunities, Mr. Speaker, to ensure effective support was in place. He had services, but they failed. How many incidents does the government think it should take before a person is effectively supported?
10 interactions? 20? Is it 30? We know that there were more than 50, perhaps even as many as 100 documented interactions with authorities. A final plea for help within hours of this tragedy that left 11 people dead, still more in the hospital. My question, Mr. Speaker, is how was this allowed to happen?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I won't join the member in speculating. I won't join the member in saying that the people that were tracking this individual, that were monitoring him, or the police that interacted with him, in judging any of the decisions they made. We don't know what happened, Honourable Speaker. The investigation is underway. If there were failings in the system, we will address them. If this was an individual who made a decision to run down a bunch of people, then he will be prosecuted and convicted and held for the rest of his life, which in my opinion is exactly what needs to happen. Now, Honourable Speaker, my commitment to the member and to all British Columbians is that I agree with her. I agree the criminal justice system is not set up to deep dive into our healthcare system. If we do not get the answers from the criminal justice system that British Columbians are rightly looking for, then we will call a full public inquiry at the earliest opportunity to do so without compromising that criminal trial.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Mr. Speaker, I also wish to acknowledge the earlier statements, heartfelt statements regarding the Lapu Lapu Festival tragedy. I also wish to acknowledge that we are proceeding with question period in difficult circumstances, and in asking questions, we mean no disrespect to the horrific events in the earlier statements. Mr. Speaker, last night we saw Canadian democracy in action, a system very familiar to British Columbia. We saw a winner-take-all, first-past-the-post counting system, which locks us further into an adversarial status quo, where collaboration is the exception rather than the rule, where people vote based on fear of the worst possible outcome rather than in support of a vision of the future they would like to see, where parties work for their own electoral interests rather than collaborating for the best interests of the public. Through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, how will you modernize the voting system in British Columbia to adequately honour each person who makes the effort to vote?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member for the question. Our democracy is very important. It's important that we have a strong democracy, and I think what we saw last night was a demonstration of many Canadians participating in that democracy. Every time we have a democratic process in BC, the electoral officer reviews that. And I know there's a select standing committee that will be in place that will involve all members of this House that will review that election. And as Attorney General, if there are changes that need to be made under the Electoral Act to modernize our democracy, I'll certainly do so. Thank you.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the answer to the first question. Across Canada and across British Columbia, people are feeling disconnected from institutions, from decision-making, from each other. We hear that people don't see their decision-making reflected. Their voices don't matter and their votes don't count. Trust in our institutions, including our democracy, are the cornerstone of our system of government. Our education, health, and housing systems suffer when they don't reflect the will of the people. Through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, how will you ensure that people feel connected and listened to by this House?
Attorney General.
Again, I share the member's sentiment that it is important that we have an engaged public that understands what the work that we're doing here and how important our democratic institutions are. That's the work of all of us. I think the proper place for understanding changes is not the government to direct it, but for all parties to the Select Standing Committee to understand how we can make our democracy strong and continue to do so. I'm glad that we're having a select standing committee to do just that work. I'll be receiving a report from the Chief Electoral Officer at some point about the last election, and we will continue to do the work of making sure that everybody's involved, that we have high voter turnout, that people are engaged with this important project of democracy. Thank you.
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, the head of the University Hospital of Northern British Columbia's psychiatric ward, backed by 23 community agencies, has been advocating for mental health and addiction support for patients. They've launched a petition to bring a psychiatric hospital to Northern BC. There are very few short-term acute psychiatric care beds available in Prince George, Terrace, and Dawson Creek, only 45 of those in total. But if anyone in the region requires a greater level of safe and secure forensic care, there are no beds at all in Northern Health. These patients need to somehow be transported to one of only 3 beds in Kamloops. The head of psychiatry at UHNBC has said, and I quote, "We are releasing dangerous patients from the hospital before they are ready to go because we have to. There is nowhere else to send them," end quote. Through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Health, when will this government bring proper psychiatric care to Northern Health?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. Dr. Daniel Vigo, as Special Advisor to the province, has been meeting with mental health specialists from the hospital, has been working with Chief Darlene Logan, and is making very good progress in identifying solutions for additional mental health services in the north. Let me say this. The province has historically centralized intensive mental health services, for example, at Colony Farms, at Riverview, and transported patients across the province. Our goal is to bring these services to the regions in the province so that people can get care closer to home, closer to family and support networks who are key to their success on release. And we'll continue that work. We're very active in the members' region in advancing that.
House Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right now, a 28-year-old man living in Victoria with schizophrenia is supported by community housing. His family's been discouraged from seeing him, and because he's an adult, they have no authority to intervene. One of his parents told us, after what happened on this past weekend, that the attacker could have been their son. This man recently attempted to slit his own throat with a machete. His main supports are meeting with a support worker once a week for coffee and a donut. My question, through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, are these sufficient supports for someone battling serious mental illness? When can we expect increased supports that are immediate before someone becomes a danger and needs to be incarcerated and put into one of these emergency beds?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you so much to the member for the question. I want to begin by commenting just how important it is that we're having this conversation here today in the House. Despite the fact that this is question period, this is a very important time for us to take in the events of this weekend, to really hold people and all people who are impacted by the actions of others in situations like these close in our heart, and to thank all of the first responders, the healthcare workers, mental health counselors, everybody who is active in this weekend's incident and continue to support people. Mr. Speaker, the member rightly raises concerns for those people who are actively living with mental health issues and with serious illnesses, and the work that we have to continue to do to support them in providing and working with them, not only to have the appropriate supports, but to provide appropriate housing. And Mr. Speaker, that's why our government maintains a commitment to building out complex care housing for people who need those kinds of active supports. Mr. Speaker, that's why our budget this year adds more resources, and as has been spoken about in this House, not just in urban areas like Victoria or the Lower Mainland, but these supports are actively needed in more rural and remote areas of the province. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to do that work. I think what we're hearing today in the House is that all parties are deeply committed to this and that we'll continue to work together to ask the difficult questions of each other and to use what we learn in time and immediately from incidents that have taken place around British Columbia to strengthen and bolster the mental health care system for all British Columbians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Abbotsford West.
Yes, another difficult question. A tourist visiting from Toronto, Stephanie, came to Vancouver to see the sights, to visit Stanley Park, experience everything that British Columbia has to offer. Instead, she was viciously attacked on the Vancouver seawall. She was left beaten, with a black eye, and more importantly, terrified for her life. But prior to the incident, the attacker's family had pleaded for him to get mental health help. Mr. Nangu's family told the media they called the police because he was having a mental health crisis, that he was off his medication, and that he needed help. So, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, why didn't Peter Hans Nangu receive the mental health assessment that could have prevented this brutal attack on Stephanie?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My understanding is that when the family called police, this individual was in fact arrested. This is a matter that is in front of the court, and again, we'll continue to monitor deeply disturbing to British Columbians. Visitors who come to British Columbia to feel welcome and safe, but all British Columbians to feel safe. We'll continue to monitor this file, but I'm sure as well on this one, we will see information come out through the criminal justice system.
Member for Prince George North Caribou.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Back in September 2024, a deeply disturbed mentally ill man with a history of over 60 police interactions brutally attacked two innocent people in downtown Vancouver, killing one man, cutting off his head, and severing another's hand. Despite prior convictions and probation for assault and assault causing bodily harm, there were no effective interventions to prevent this mentally ill-related catastrophic outcome. Only after this horrifying attack did the Premier announce 9 beds to be installed for the pre-trial centre. Now, these beds, Mr. Speaker, are only for those who have become entangled in the justice system. And this is after something bad happens. Mr. Speaker, true to the Premier, what will the Premier do to prevent these violent attacks from happening in the first place?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We've been working with, members' timeline's not correct, but we've been working with Dr. Daniel Vigo to ensure that we have a couple critical pieces in place. One is the intervention services and community, the ACT teams. These are assertive community care teams that provide care to people who are struggling in community, and particularly those that are identified by police or community service organizations as being a particular risk, either to themselves or to other people. But also, we know that many of these individuals are ending up being arrested in our criminal justice system. So we need to do both things at the same time, and we are. In this budget, we're expanding those ACT teams. We're expanding the care. It started with the Surrey pretrial beds that the member said, which are indeed targeted to people who are in the pretrial system. But in the coming weeks, we'll announce additional beds at Alouette, Maple Ridge, where people are in community, not necessarily involved in the criminal justice system. And that was just the beginning, Honourable Speaker. We're going to continue opening beds across the province. People are struggling particularly with mental health issues, addiction issues, and brain injury all at the same time. Thank you.
Member for Prince George Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On October 18th, 2022, Constable Shailene Yang was killed in the line of duty while trying to help Burnaby Park staff check on a man living in Broadview Park. The accused, who stabbed Constable Yang, had been living in the park for months and was facing assault charges from an incident that occurred 7 months before he killed Constable Yang. He had also been charged with assault and willfully obstructing a peace officer in February 2021, 2 police interactions in the year before he killed a police officer 6 months later. Through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, these tragic and preventable incidents continue to occur. Why has it taken this government so long to just begin to address this historic problem?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I was at the constable's funeral. It was a moving event, a horrific death, and the whole community mourned. Police officers put themselves at risk at every call that they attend. You know, thinking about first responders, particularly this weekend, again, putting themselves at risk for all of us. The member is correct to recall that the tragedy was devastating for the province. It is one of a series of attacks on police officers nationally, a profound concern. This is a national issue that we are grappling with. And in particular, this incident led to significant changes around peer-assisted teams in community, around active community outreach and treatment program expansion to prevent these kinds of incidents. We've got to keep doing this work. We will keep doing this work, Honourable Speaker, and I've outlined much of it that's underway across the province right now.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reality is on Saturday, people left their homes to take part in a joyous occasion, and 11 of those people aren't coming home. The reality is that Constable Yang went to work to protect her community, and she didn't come home. The reality is that we have not updated our Mental Health Act in any substantial way since 1996. And right now, the reality is it's not just the province watching what this Premier does next. It's not just Canada watching what this Premier does next. The world is now watching what we do next. And I can tell you this, in every community, whether it's mine or any other member of this House, in all honesty, we are not doing enough to keep our streets and our people safe. And that has unfortunately been proven out time and again. My question to the Premier is a direct one. When will he take the necessary action that we can accomplish in this House to make sure that people can be taken off of our streets and given the care they need before these tragic incidents occur again?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In relation to the horrific mass murder that took place over the weekend, our government has announced we'll establish an independent commission to move quickly to review best practice from other jurisdictions, because we know there are other community organizations that are planning on holding events this summer that are asking, should we hold our event? Can we do it safely? We want to make sure they have all the information they need to both ensure the event is as safe as possible and so that British Columbians are able to continue celebrating. In terms of this specific incident, I won't join the member in his conclusions that he's drawing already about what happened. Police are investigating that. What we know is that a man made a decision to drive a vehicle into a crowd of people. He killed innocent people, 11, and potentially more as people struggle for their lives in a hospital right now. He is rightly charged with murder. He's facing a criminal trial. I hope he's convicted. I hope he spends the rest of his life behind bars. As for the system as a whole, British Columbians rightly have questions, as is the opposition. And we'll ensure that at our earliest opportunity, if we don't have those answers, we'll call a full public inquiry so we can get those answers. But it's important for the member to know, it's important for British Columbians to know, that when we look at communities across the province, we are seeing crime rates come down. These programs intervening with repeat violent offenders, with people struggling with mental health issues, with criminality generally, are driving down crime rates in the province. And it's not enough. We've got to do more. In Vancouver, a 6% drop in overall crime, down 18% over 2016. In Kelowna, decreased the second year in a row, down 17% over the high water mark in 2022. In Kamloops, a 14% drop over the previous year. The numbers are lower than 2020 and 2021. This isn't enough. We've got to do more. But it shows that these programs, the work that we're doing with police, prosecutors, Crown Counsel, social workers, mental health services, are working, and we'll continue to do that work, Honourable Speaker.
The bell ends the question period. Honourable members, I have the honour to table a report from the Auditor General ensuring the quality and legal aid representation services. Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I had the honour to present the 2024 Climate Change Accountability Report pursuant to the Climate Change Accountability Act. Also, Honourable Speaker, I had the honour to present the 2024 Zero Emission Vehicle Update Report. The purpose of this report is to provide data on the status of vehicle suppliers' compliance with the Zero Emission Vehicle Act and regulation.
Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In this chamber, I call estimates debate for the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs. And in Section 8 Douglas Fir Room, I call continued estimates debate for the Ministry of Energy.
Committee chairs.
Thank you, members. We'll call the chamber back to order, where we will be contemplating the estimates of the Housing and Municipal Affairs Ministry, and we'll call on the minister to move the vote.
Thank you so much, Chair. I move vote number 33, resolve that a sum not exceeding $1,513,975,000 be granted to His Majesty to defray the expenses of the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs and Ministry Operations to 31st March 2026.
Thank you, Minister. Do you have any opening remarks?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. First off, I want to thank the amazing team here that I've got, and not only here, there's folks in the other room and some in their office, I assume, that are just amazing. I'm just so fortunate to have such a strong team of individuals who are thoughtful, who are caring, who understand that the work we do impacts all communities, and in particular, the lens of empathy that they bring to the work. I'm only able to do what I'm able to do because of their amazing work, and I want to say I'm really grateful to all of them. And I want to welcome the member back. I know we haven't had a chance to see each other in person, but it's great to see the member here. And of course, housing is a major priority for our government. It's a major priority for the province. Although right now tariffs and a whole host of things are top of mind, we know that it'll always come back to housing. Housing is central to the economy, is central to our health as a community, and it's critically important for us as we go forward. So I look forward to the exchange we're going to have, and I want to thank all members that have participated in advance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Recognizing the member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for your comments. I'm glad to be back in the House. And I hope I have the stamina that this has been given, because we know what an important issue it is for both sides of the aisle. And my questions today to the ministry, and I'm glad to see you've brought so many capable people that will be able to help us answer some of our questions. But my key priority areas will include increasing the housing supply and affordability as you described, and those measures that you have implemented in order to do that, supporting home ownership as opposed to rental, addressing homelessness, talking a little bit about the action response team, the HEART team, and improving community livability and infrastructure. I'm joined here with our critic on municipal affairs, and I'm sure there will be more questions that I can at least turn some of that over as we proceed throughout the day. And talking about financial sustainability and good governance for local governments and improving their prudent financial management and oversight, strengthening regulatory systems, and that would be providing fair and efficient, responsive residential tenancy services, as well as how are we protecting not only tenants but ensuring landlords have rights as well. Reconciliation with the Indigenous people and the off-reserve alignment relative to the Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous Peoples Act and advancing those housing projects. And finally, the economic and social challenges and reviewing some of the programs under the ministry for efficiency and how we're going to address what I would consider now to be significant constraints going into as you described, the tariff situations that we may be faced with. My first questions through you, Mr. Speaker, to the minister will be around the Speculation and Vacancy Tax Act and the revenues, costs, and results of that act. And we know that in BC the prices are remaining stubbornly high. So my questions will be really talking about your stated goals and the burden that has been imposed administratively on home owners and taxpayers to comply with some of the requirements. So my first question to you, Mr. Minister, is does the minister believe that the speculation and vacancy tax has effectively eliminated the issues of foreign investment and speculation in British Columbia's housing market? And if yes, why are home prices still at record highs?
The Minister of Housing.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I'll start by saying to the member that the speculation and vacancy tax is actually with the Ministry of Finance. But that being said, at a high level, I'm happy to speak to it. I just want to make sure that I put that on the record at the beginning so that if there's specific pieces I can't answer, the member understands why. But on a high level, I would say the speculation and vacancy tax has been effective. It's been effective to ensure that the housing in our community is available for people in our communities. The member is probably well aware of the impact in Metro Vancouver, where we saw over 20,000 homes that came onto the market for long-term rental from the introduction of speculation vacancy tax. We have heard from mayors from around the province who want us to consider expanding the speculation and vacancy tax to their communities because they are seeing the impact in other communities. So if the member's question is, do I think it's been effective? My answer is yes. I do believe it's been effective. If the member is asking, I think the member was asking, why hasn't it solved the entirety of our housing crisis? Because one program won't do that. If that was that easy, there wouldn't be a ministry dedicated to this, and everybody in the country would just do one thing. It's going to require a whole host of measures. I have spoken on many occasions about needing to address speculation as a key part, which we've been doing. We talk about reducing red tape so we can get to decisions quicker and finding more efficient ways for decision making to happen. I'm sure we'll canvass that, but we have introduced a whole host of legislation over the last few years which has led to some greater efficiencies. It's going to require investments directly into affordable housing, which we'll be canvassing, I'm sure. And lastly, it's going to need for us to ensure that we're protecting some of our existing housing stock as well. And we're doing that with the Rental Protection Fund. So those are some important measures. Again, I can speak high level on speculation and vacancy tax, but it is a Ministry of Finance measure.
Thank you, Minister. The MLA from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you. Can the minister provide any detailed revenue figures on how much money the speculation and vacancy tax has generated since its implementation?
Minister.
Again, Chair, the speculation vacancy tax is with the Ministry of Finance, and so I'll have the team try to find some numbers from the Ministry of Finance, but it's better situated for the estimates for the Ministry of Finance.
Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you for the recognition. So I'm hearing that the minister suggests that I should ask that question of finance, or is the minister prepared to undertake, since clearly that is within his ministry, this kind of tax? He would think that you would be interested in knowing the kind of revenue that is bringing in to the minister.
Minister.
Again, it's actually not in our ministry. It's with the Ministry of Finance, and so that's what I was getting at.
Thank you, Minister. Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you. I'll reserve the right to ask that question later then. Can the minister then identify how many individuals or households have paid the speculation tax since it was introduced? And can the minister offer insights into the typical profile of those taxpayers?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Chair. I think this It may get repetitive because the speculation vacancy tax is with the Ministry of Finance. That's where the information is available. I would direct the member to estimates with the Ministry of Finance to get at the speculation vacancy tax and all the information the member is requiring.
Thank you, Minister. Member, I will just warn that we have now heard a couple of times that this may be directed better toward the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I was hoping you may have a profile of the kind of taxpayer that was we were imposing this taxation on. So I'll leave the financial piece of it to the Ministry of Finance. Have you, in terms of the reporting requirements then, let's move on to that. Do we have any indication of what it would take or what it does take for the ministry to annually incur and implement and enforce? So the staffing, the mailing, the advertising, the legal services, and I know we had a deadline, so I'm assuming all of that was clearly within the ministry and not within finance.
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Chair. Again, speculation vacancy tax is with the Ministry of Finance. They lead all the elements the member has highlighted and better suited for a Ministry of Finance.
Thank you, Minister. Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you. Then I'm going to move on and talk about the revitalizing. This is also dealing with, however, investment within introducing foreign investment into British Columbia. And a prominent real estate marketer, Bob Rennie, has proposed a program allowing foreign buyers to invest in rental properties, provided they were to commit to a long-term rental. This initiative would aim to stimulate housing supply, and apparently Premier Eby has signaled, the Premier has signaled.
Good catch, member.
Yeah, thank you. Has signaled a shift in the prospective acknowledgement that role that investors can play in addressing housing shortages. He has in fact expressed interest in harnessing investments through facilitating more conversation around this. So my first question is a policy question of the minister, and does the ministry support initiatives that reintroduce potential foreign investment into BC's rental housing market under long-term rental commitments?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you so much, Chair. I haven't met with the individual the member is referring to regarding this specific proposal, but I would say that even with the speculation and vacancy tax, as long as an individual is renting their property, they're able to do so and not pay the tax. It's when individuals are not renting their property is when they have to pay the tax. And generally, on a high level, I would say that we are always open to ideas and thoughts about how we can continue to get purpose-built rentals being built in this province. So when individuals, whether we agree with them or not, whether they're from not-for-profit, from private, it doesn't matter where the ideas come from. We're always willing to look into those ideas, listen, and explore whether they're feasible or not. At this point, on the specific idea, all it is very general. And if there are more information that that individual brings forward, then we would possibly consider it, but we're not there yet.
Thank you, Minister. Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
So has the ministry taken any steps to evaluate or implement programs that would facilitate foreign investment as proposed by industry stakeholders like Rennie?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Chair. There is no concrete proposal that's been proposed. It's a high-level concept that was suggested. And if there is something that's concrete that's proposed, certainly something we would have to consider, but we're not there yet.
Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How does the ministry intend on assessing the proposal or the impact of renewed foreign investment on housing affordability in British Columbia? What would be the elements of consideration?
Minister of Housing.
It's hard to speculate because there's no proposal. And that being said, if there is a proposal, we would have to analyze it just like we do every other proposal that comes from industry. My understanding from what I've read online publicly is that it requires several changes at a federal government level. And so the advocacy is less to the province and more to the federal government. We'll see what concrete proposals come forward, but it's hard to provide commentary on something that's not present to us at this time.
Thank you, Minister. Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you. Could the minister clarify for me what he means when he believes that foreign investment in rental properties requires federal intervention?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't imply that. I said that the stakeholders that are proposing this are targeting it towards the federal government. So I can't comment on why they are, but I'll leave it to them to describe their proposal and explain that.
The MLA from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to differ on terms of whether or not that was intended to be a federal issue at all. I believe that they were specifically targeting our interest in having foreign investments, since we are a province that does not wish to have that. But I will leave that for the time being and ask a question about how the minister compares the effective of institutional investors versus individual landlords providing effective or providing affordable rental housing. So how are you measuring the effective of institutional investors who come forward as opposed to an individual landlord?
Thank you, Member. Just a reminder to come through the chair, please, with all questions. Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'll just start with where the member started with the comment around not understanding the federal piece. Again, I can't speak to what specifically they're lobbying or advocating to the federal government, but it is my understanding that the federal government has a ban on foreign investment till February 2026. So it may be that, and but I just want to ensure the member I'm not trying to avoid it. It's just I just don't know the details of what they're proposing to the federal government. And to the member's question about institutional investment versus, say, mom and pop investor landlords, I would say that, and maybe the member's getting at REITs. And I would say that what we're starting to see with REITs in British Columbia is their desire to get out of older rental buildings and use those dollars to invest in new purpose-built rentals. Anyone that invests in the ability to create more rentals is, I think, positive, whether it's some REITs trying to invest in brand new construction or whether it's mom and pop landlord that want to have extra units.
Thank you, Minister. The member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I have several questions regarding the considerations around the foreign investment. But I think what I will ask directly of the minister is, has he had any conversations specifically with Rennie in terms of this kind of an approach?
The Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Chair. I don't recall having a conversation with Mr. Rennie around his proposal. It may have been at an event in passing, but I have not seen any proposal in any way that is concrete that my ministry can analyze.
Thank you, Minister. Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you. How does the ministry then plan to ensure that rental income generated from foreign-owned properties would contribute positively to our economy and wouldn't result in significant capital outflows?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Chair. Again, the member's asking me hypothetical questions about a proposal that's not concrete and hasn't been presented to us, and so it's next to impossible for me to answer that question.
Member from Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am going to turn this over to my colleague and the critic for infrastructure at this point in time, because I need a break.
Thank you, members. Member from Kamloops Centre.
Thank you. Just have a couple quick questions for the minister. I'm sure it'll probably shock him to find out it's to do with Cherry Ave Apartments in Kamloops in my riding. This is a property that was purchased a few years ago, 3 times assessed value. It was supposed to be open and have people housed in it in September of 2023. We're now pushing up on September of 2025, still unsure if there will actually be people living in this 42-unit apartment building yet or not. And we're unclear what the actual total dollar value that BC Housing has had to expend on this building is now. The original deal with the owner that was purchased off of fell through in terms of the repairs that were needed to be done. Other reputable local contractors are now dealing with the repairs, so this isn't about anything that's happening locally. This is about the handling of BC Housing. The building was allowed to freeze up and pipes burst yet again, and I say yet again because BC Housing had the exact same thing happen to them with a motel that they bought about 3 blocks away a year or 2 earlier. So lessons weren't learned that time either. What is the full price costing all in with the renovations and purchase of the Cherry Ave Apartments, and what is the expected move-in date for people?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just wait for the member there. Thanks. No surprise, I knew the member was going to ask this question at his first opportunity. Appreciate that. I can share with the member that the complete cost is $14.8 million. When it was unfortunate, when the pipes burst, it was obviously unforeseen challenge. When that happened, the not-for-profit partners and BC Housing went in, and because the walls needed to be opened up, there was some serious work that needed to be done. BC Housing, with the not-for-profit provider, decided to expand the renovations beyond what was just needed before. So that includes new fire sprinkler and fire alarm panels. They've done some additional work for retaining and the wall, the retaining wall around it. Essentially redid the entire electrical of the building, increased the electrical capacity originally anticipated for 600 amp to 1,000, and a whole host of changes to balconies, etc. So because that work needed to be done, it was an opportune time to expand that. And I can share with the member that we expect people to move in this fall.
Thank you, Minister. Noting the hour.
Noting the hour, Honourable Speaker, I move that the committee rise and report progress and ask leave to sit again.
Thank you. Members have heard the question. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. This committee stands adjourned.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee of Supply, Section B, reports progress of the estimates of the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs and asks to leave to sit again.
When shall the committee sit again, Government House Leader?
Next sitting, Honourable Speaker.
So ordered. Committee Chair.
Mr. Speaker, Section A reports progress on the Ministry of Energy and Climate Solutions and asks leave to sit again.
When shall the committee sit again, Government House Leader?
Next sitting.
So ordered. Government House Leader.
I move that this House do now adjourn.
Member, you heard the question. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. This House stands adjourned until 1:30 p.m. today.